about this is you're going to see how simple it can be to use JobNimbus. You may have chatted with other people previously and or heard that it can be really complicated. My goal is to show you that it can be very, very simple to use JobNimbus, and that's what we want to do. So we are going to quickly jump right into this. That way we don't waste any time and we have some time at the end for questions if y'all have any. So whenever we first log in, it's going to bring us up to our home screen, and this is what it's going to look like. We have a quick view of items that we can see. You can customize that by just clicking on the customize button, choosing what you would like to see from here. But the other side that we can see is by clicking on the sales tab, this will give us 5 built-in reports that we can use to quickly get an overview of what is going on with our sales reps and our leads and how effective they are as well. The nice thing is too, these are all live reports. So these update as you complete jobs and add in new ones as well. So it makes it really easy there. The next thing we're going to continue on with the navigation is under our contacts, we have 2 different options here. This shows us our list view. So you can think of this as essentially your Rolodex or your phone book. And the other side is where we can view our boards. We're going to come back to this as we go through the rest of the navigation portion real quick. We have our calendar. Again, I'll come back to this, but just want to point out where that's located. And finally, we have our reports. The ones that we have that as well, 3 on the left that will give you built-in reports. And then you can create any kind of custom report. But to make this simple, we're not going to focus on those right now at the moment. The next thing I want to show everyone how to do is we will want to make sure that you have your own logo inside of JobNimbus. So what's going to show up in the upper left? To do that, very simple. You're going to click on your name in the upper right. Before you add a picture, it'll just be in your initials. We will go into settings. And from here, we're going to click on the company tab. When we click in here, we can choose our company. We're going to edit it. And this is where you would be able to add your company logo in. That way, this is going to show up on all of your documents that you create. And if you're going to also have things in a signature, for example, like an email as well. Also, don't forget to add in whatever information you want to show for your company, so that can be saved as well. We will cancel out of this. And there's a lot of other things in settings. Again, we want to make this simple, so we are going to skip over that. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to add in a contact. When we add in a contact, we have 2 different spots we can do that. The most common place you're going to do that is going to be here with the blue plus in the upper right. We're going to click on this, add contact, and we're just going to add in a new contact really quick. I'm just going to make up a person here. We will add in John, and we'll do Johnson to make this really simple. And I'm going to quickly add in some additional items as well. Everything that we add in on the left-hand side is going to pertain to the customer. Everything that we add in on the left-hand side is what we use to keep ourselves organized within JobNimbus. Our contact type is telling us what kind of customer we have. When we select the dropdown, we can choose what those are. We're going to just go with our retail insurance one. And our status. This is going to allow us to choose what point the customer is. Is it a brand new customer, so it's a lead, or maybe we've already done some additional items with the customer. So we would choose the correct status to put them in so that they show up on the board. Whoever is logged in, it will always default yourself as the sales rep and the assigned to as well. If we do need to change that, we just select who the sales rep is, and you can have more than one additional person assigned to one contact as well. If you needed to change it, you would just click the X. For this purpose, we're going to just leave it here. Now, with our lead source, this one is a really important one because we want to be able to make sure that all of the money that we spend in marketing is actually paying off for us. So for example, if we're doing this correctly and we see that, maybe it's not paying off with the email campaigns that we're doing, but it's doing much better with the Facebook, then we can quickly see that. These items right here are just set as default ones. You can change these to whatever ones would reflect to what you use on a daily basis. So don't worry about these ones that you see here. Mine are probably going to look a little bit different. And that's really the main things. You can add an additional description if there's additional notes that you want to make sure that you know about the customer. But we are just going to save this. And this is going to bring us to our contact screen. From here, we are going to go over a few quick things really fast. Everything that we just entered will show up here again on the top so we can see that. And some of the tools that we have to be able to communicate within JobNimbus, whether it's to the customer or with other employees in the company, is we can, of course, send an email over to our customers. We can choose whether it's a customer, a sales rep, or we need to put in their email. And we can also use templates that will automatically fill in the information that we need. So if I select this one, it's going to automatically pop up. It has our company logo, makes it very simple to use that. And last part, of course, we can add any attachments that we may need to send over to the customer that we have saved on JobNimbus. We're going to just exit out of that. And the next part that we can use to communicate with our employees or just to take notes is the note feature. When we add a note, we can do this two different ways. The first one, let's just say called customer and set appointment. So we'll save this. But let's say I'm communicating with Mr. Johnson and it's something urgent that I need to have an additional employee reach out and contact the customer. When we add a note, we use our @mention tool, just like when we tag someone on social media. I would select myself and I'm going to say, please call customer as soon as possible. That way, I would get notified as soon as I send this. It's going to show up on my mobile device if I have that selected, and I would also get an email as well. We can choose the different note types that we leave. Again, we can customize these, so don't worry if those aren't ones that you specifically use. So we will save this. And now we have successfully figured out how we can communicate with our customers or other employees inside of the company. Our next step that I want to go over from here is let's go back to our board so we can see how those actually work. When we're in the contact like this, we could either click on contacts or we could quickly just click on go to board in the upper left, and this will take us exactly to our boards. So from here, we have the 4 boards that we would go through for the process, and that's what we're going to walk through now of what it's going to be like going from lead all the way to paid and closed with one of our customers. So we will click on the sales, and whenever we're looking in here, we see that, okay, Mr. Johnson is a lead, but we also have additional information. We have the name of the customer. We have this one right here that's highlighted in blue, which is the most important one in my opinion, because this tells us how long a customer has been in that particular status. If I was the sales manager and I had a customer in here for, let's say, more than 4 days as a lead, and there were no notes in here, I would be a little bit frustrated. And that would be a quick indication that, okay, I need to follow up with whoever's in charge of Mr. Johnson to make sure that we are not going to miss out on any potential revenue. From here, we can also drag and drop our contact to any additional status. So let's say that we are in the estimating status. When we drag and drop from here, we would want to click into the contact because we want to make sure that we have really great notes. The last thing we want is we use JobNimbus, but we're still jotting down notes on pieces of paper, and then we're going to throw those away. We want to keep everything in one location to make it really, really simple for you to use. From here, I have an estimate that I'm going to send over to Mr. Johnson. We can do this two different ways when we're creating estimates. We can add a document. Maybe you already have an estimate you've created, and you can upload that and save that here inside of, and you can save that inside of the contact for the customer. This will make it really easy. And the other option that we have is a very simple tool that you can use if you want to create the estimate inside of JobNimbus. If we do it this way, we are going to click on the Financials tab, and we will add an estimate ourselves. When we do it this way, we can just simply add the line items that we want to add to show on the estimate. I have some items already saved, but if it is an item, for example, that you have not added before, you would type it out, add product, and from here, you would add in your information and then save it. That way, whenever you add it in again, for example, I have roof repair, I am going to add this one, and it is going to automatically pop up the information for us each time that we have saved previously to make it really simple to create estimates quickly. Some additional things to point out: we have a customer notes section and we have an internal notes section as well. I'm going to fill these in really quick just with some things and read over estimate. And I'm going to add an additional note for the internal. That way you can see what that looks like. And we will just say VIP. When we save our estimate, it is going to give us a preview of what the estimate will look like whenever we send this over to our customer. As we can see, everything is on here. We put the one item for the roof repair, and they have the total. We can either email this over to the customer directly from here by clicking on our three dots. When we email it, we can choose who it is being sent to from here, and we can add additional recipients, and we can send that over. It will send with a default email template. If we have something more specific for the template, you could choose that as well. Again, these items you can change if you want. And the other way is we could send this over to the customer and capture a signature. This is a very easy way to do it by just clicking on the required signers, add, and we can choose who we're going to send it over to. Whenever we send that, it will email it over to the customer. They'll be able to review it just like this. And when they sign it, we will be able to know that it is signed, and that means they're ready to move forward. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to go back to our contact. Now up here in this workflow area, if we click on John Johnson, this is going to take us back to the main contact screen that we were in before. So now that I have sent the estimate over to the customer, I'm going to want to leave a note so that we know that has been sent without having to go into the financials and seeing if we sent that over. So I will just say estimate has been sent and signed. I'm going to put this in exclamations because, hey, now we're going to make some revenue. That's what we are in business for. From here, now I'm going to also update the status of our customer. We could either go back to the boards and drag and drop the customer, but instead we can change the status from here directly by clicking on our three dots. We hover over change status, and we're just going to put signed contract. This is going to automatically move them to the next status. I'm going to show you what this is going to look like as well, because this makes it really easy. The customer is now in signed contract, and now it's also automatically going to notify whoever's in charge of production that, hey, I need to start doing my job and get this stuff going. From here, we're going to use our drop down to quickly jump over to our admin side. Now, if we have additional things that we need to do, we can do those, but we don't. So I'm going to skip over these, and we're going to go to job approved. And that way, when we go to production, we will see that we have an incoming approved job. And now I am the production manager, and I can finish with the rest of what I need to do so that we can complete this job. As the production manager, I'm going to click into the customer again, and let's set a task for ourselves. That way we can see what that is going to look like. We will add the task. As we can see, it is going to relate the task to the contact that we were working with. And we can also select the task type. Again, we can change these, so don't worry if none of these relate to what you would do on a regular basis. This one, I'm just going to put a regular task. And let's do this one as order materials. And we'll just say, from here, we can select our start date. Let's just go ahead and set this one for Monday, and we will leave it at that. We can choose our priority level. This one, I'm going to put it high because we want to make sure we order the materials so that we can start this job as soon as possible. We can choose who this task is assigned to. If it's an additional team member and not ourselves, we can change that. And we will save this. Whenever we save this task, it is going to show up in two places. It'll show up under the contact, but it's also going to show up underneath the calendar. So if we click on our calendar from here, if we go to next week, because we're on the week view, we will be able to see that we created that task. And since we did not set a specific time on the task, it just pushes to the very top in the all day section for us. If we set it as a time, it would just live in where it's supposed to. We're going to view the task. And from here, if we did order the materials, we could go ahead and complete the task by clicking on the checkbox here, or maybe we need to do some additional things that the production manager needs to know about from ordering the materials. So when we're viewing this task, we can click on John Johnson, and that's going to take us directly to the contact so that we don't have to go backwards to be able to get to where we need to. We'll add a note, and let's say materials are delayed. I can spell today. There we go. And again, I'm going to use that @mention tool so I can tag our production manager, and he knows that the materials are delayed without having to go into JobNimbus to check on any updates. They just know that they're going to be updated. We will save this from here. Okay, let's move on to our next step in the process. So we're going to go back to our board. And actually, no, sorry, we're going to pause on that one. We're going to go back to our calendar, and we will go back to our Monday slot. And now let's say the task has been completed to order the materials. From here, we can just simply click on the checkbox. And when we do this, it is going to gray out our completed task so that we know that is now all done and finished. Let's go back to our board so that we can update.
Now, Tyler, on my account, it actually doesn't show me the task grayed out when it's completed. Is there a toggle or something that we need to use
to be able to see our completed tasks?
Yeah.
Yes. On our calendar, we'll get rid of that. We can come down here and we can either hide our completed tasks underneath calendar, or we cannot. If we hide them, it will get rid of that completed task. But if we want to see them, we can show completed tasks and we'll be able to simply see that. With our other items, we can do the exact same thing. So if we don't want to see work orders, or maybe we don't want to see all of the different task types that we have, and we want to just focus on maybe the estimate tasks that we have coming up for the week, we can see those. So with the calendar, I always like to say, if you have used a digital calendar before, chances are you can definitely use this one as well. It's pretty basic for the most part on using this calendar. Now let's go back to our contacts so that we can update the status. So we'll go back to John Johnson, and we will change the status. And you know what? Let's go ahead and say that the job has been completed. So we will change our status. We'll go back to our board so we can see what that looks like. And it will do the exact same thing as before. When we complete our sales, it's going to notify our production manager. When we finish with production, we will also be able to notify billing when we move into this job completed. So we will switch over to our billing board. From here, we see that if I'm on the administrative side on the accounts receivable end, I know that we have a completed job, so I need to come in here and I need to send an invoice over this customer because we need to get some money coming in. So I'm going to click into the customer, and so that everyone else that is working on the billing side knows what's going on, I'm going to add a note really quick and say sending invoice, and I'm just going to put a random date on here. We'll say we're going to send it on Tuesday of next week. I will say save this. That way we can see this under our activity. And the next part is we need to create an invoice so we can send that over to the customer. Inside of JobNimbus, we have made that really simple for you to do. We will go into financials. Now we can create our invoice two different ways. We could either create one from scratch, but that's not the easiest way to do it. Instead, we can come into our estimate, which is this one, number 54 here. And if we click on the three dots, we can actually just convert this over to an invoice. And this makes it really easy because we're going to probably have this exact same item on the invoice. If we needed to add an additional item, we can add that as well, but we're just going to stick with this roof repair here. We will save the invoice when we're ready, but we can also set the terms that we want to have on our invoice of what's going to be paid. We're just going to keep it at due at receipt because we're going to have them paid just one time. When we save this, it's going to give us the same preview like what we had on the estimate, except this one is the invoice as well, so that we can see what it's going to look like sent over to the customer. We can click on our three dots in this invoice and we can email it over to our customer to be able to collect that payment as well. When we do collect a payment from the customer, if we're in this invoice screen, we can collect a payment down here on the bottom, or chances are you're probably not going to be inside of the invoice. We'll go back to the customer, because if the customer pays that quick, that is great. But chances are it's probably going to take them at least a few hours, if not maybe a few days, to make a payment. From here, we're going to collect a payment on this invoice number 1021. So we're just going to add payment here. We only have one invoice for this contact, John Johnson. So it's going to default to that one. If we had multiple invoices, we would be able to select which one we are going to make a payment on. We're going to say he's paying the full amount of the $800, and we will choose our method as check in this case. Whenever the method is check, I do recommend using our reference box to put in the check number. So we'll just say this was our check number, and we will save our payment. Once this has been saved, we will be able to see now, if we go into our invoice number, we'll just click on 1021 to view that. It's going to be stamped with the paid stamp. And now we know this has been fully paid. The customer knows when they made a payment, so we could email this completed receipt over to the customer. That way they have that for their records as well. Now, the last thing is that we need to do is we need to make sure that we update the status of the customer, because if we don't, we would come back into our boards, and even though John Johnson has already paid, we don't know that by looking at the boards because there's still an incoming completed job. So is what we need to do. We need to move them over to paid and closed. When we do this, it is going to archive the customer. Now, don't worry, it's nothing bad. It just means they're an inactive customer because we've already finished the job for them. It will also hide the items in this column, but we can also view the items by clicking on the eye and we'll be able to see what has been completed. Now, this is a really simple process to go from beginning to end whenever we are dealing with a brand new customer, and then we're going through all of the steps to complete everything with our customers as well. That is how simple JobNimbus can be.